All right, my name is Matthew Kemps. I am co-founder of Lone Wolf Realty Group at Spyglass Realty, and this is
Matt Kershling with Gold Star Mortgage.
Two Mats, One Market.
All right, man, let's get into it. We had a couple topics that we wanted to touch on that we haven't. I think this is podcast number 15. 15. Think about that. That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And they say for a podcast to become truly official, what is it, 10? They say most podcasts don't make it past 30. So we're halfway there.
10 means you didn't quit.
Okay, 10 means you didn't quit. I know, because I remember there's something about the number 30 and then there's something about 60. Because I remember like reading this article and I was like, well, I'm already almost at 30 when I was reading it. And then we hit 60 probably 2 months ago, but we're coming up on 100 total.
You're like total filmed.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But the topics that we wanted to touch on today, one of the ones I want to just get straight into was, here we've got Lone Wolf Realty Group that we talk about, and we were kind of mentioning it just a minute ago. Want to make sure for those of you that don't know, it doesn't mean it's just Matt. He's not just like this lone wolf. It's kind of a nickname. Tell us how the brand began.
So back in the golf days when I was playing professional golf,
Mm-hmm.
there's a game called Wolf. It's just a little money game that you can play with some buddies. Well, there's 3, 4, 5 guys. Well, anyways, if you don't want to have a partner, it's called going lone wolf.
Okay.
And a little degenerate side of me always went lone wolf.
Right. Is there a reason?
You make more money.
I see.
Yeah, but you take more risk.
Got it.
Instead of having a partner where you're going either 3v2 or 2-on-2, I went 3-on-1 or 4-on-1.
Got it.
My score had to beat their best score, best ball.
Got it.
And in that sense, like it was my nickname ever since I moved to Austin. Hey Wolf, what are you doing? Lone Wolf, what are you doing? Or hey Wolf, when you coming over? And so instead of putting Kemp's Realty Group, we just kind of put it as, hey, what's my nickname? All right, Lone Wolf. So
There you go.
Lone Wolf Realty Group is how it came.
But the group there's a team associated with it.
It's a wolf pack. It's a full
pack.
family.
Right on. And how many people are on the team right now?
Right now we have 7.
Okay.
We have 4 or 5 that we're talking to right now that are considering. We have an ISA that started. We got a bunch of new leads flowing through, which will get us to our next conversation. And plenty of coaching that you introduced us to on primarily focusing right now on lead conversion because that's where the money's at right now.
Correct.
I've been doing Tom Ferry coaching for the last 3 years, but primarily on the management side and how to structure the team, how to make sure the team was successful, how to set up the agents for the best success they possibly can. Kind of got everything I possibly could out of that. Now it's just, okay, let's get back to sales.
So yeah, it's we had James McDonald on here, who is the he's one of the coaches, or better yet, speakers for Craig Proctor, and he talked about his predictions. In the next few years, was that it was going to be all about the teams. In other words, that if you really, really want to capitalize correctly on real estate, you have to have a team. And so, from someone who's not in the business, or even someone who is in the business, I try to play devil's advocate, and I think, like, what is the benefits of a team? Why, if I'm a real estate agent, do I, here I can just be on my own, single agent, making a bunch of money, or maybe not making a bunch of money. What are the benefits of being on a team?
So this is going to be a very long answer.
Yeah, we've got time.
Get perfect. Okay, so let's just compare first a solo agent compared to an agent on a team, agent who's on a team.
Sure.
Solo agent, they're primarily focusing on their farm. That's where they focus on. If they get leads out from other areas, they need to go to someone else where it's a referral fee basis, or consider side. If you're on a team, you kick it off to another team member. You split the scenario with them because you have that reciprocity where you can go back and forth. Hey, I rub your back, you rub mine, and let's make sure we kind of work the deal as best we possibly can.
Sure.
Or if you need an agent on the team to go show that property, let's say you work Pflugerville, but you have a listing or a buy in Leander, but the listing's going to be in Pflugerville. Hey, man, I'll take the listing. You go take the buy. We'll figure some scenario out on the team side, but we'll make sure I rub your back, you rub mine, and we're here for be a family to make sure we have the best experience possible for the consumer.
So number one would be like proximity in a marketplace.
Exactly.
To avoid, you can't be everywhere.
Like, example, like I'm in Liberty Hill.
Right.
Which
is very far north.
Very far northwest. I live in South Waco. It's a joke.
Right.
It's not even close to Waco, but it's just funny to say. Let's use James Johnson as an example on the team. James is in South Austin, down here, kind of right where the podcast studio is.
Right.
And if I get a lead in South Austin, just to be totally blunt, I'll have the conversation. I'll make sure they have a great experience on the phone. They have to build trust them as fast as we possibly can, and let them know that the expert in the area is giving me James Johnson. James and I figure out a scenario how to do best a referral scenario or just a split scenario. I send him the lead. He works the entire process, gives them the best experience possible. But I'm still involved in the conversation. But James is just here locally as let's call it the location per scenario and
Right.
expert in the area. But I'm there to help with negotiations if need be.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just location-wise on the team is probably the best thing possible, which is how we kind of initially did and how our coaching was basically split up initially. So, like, imagine, let's just take a clock, and then you draw lines throughout the clock, right? Make that geography. So then let's say from 10 to 12, that's my area.
Yep.
From 12 to 2, that's Russ's area.
Mm-hmm.
From dead center smack in the middle, that's going to be Megan.
Yep.
From 3 to 5, James still covers that area. From anything south to southwest, that's James. West, I handle west.
Got it. So we got proximity benefits. What are the other benefits? I mean, here I'm thinking, if I'm, again, the agent, it's like, I'm not joining a team. Like, I don't mind driving. I'll take care of it all, whatever. Or what are the other benefits outside of, having that, kind of map coverage?
You get to focus on being in sales, and you still have the prospect, but less prospecting is needed because there is an ISA on the team taking care of a lot of phone calls for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going out on the most amount of appointments possible. So we have work being divvied up between all the people. So let's just say, for example, Lee comes through, and keep going, James. Sorry, James. Lee comes in South Austin. ISA takes the phone call, has the initial call. Hey, James, it looks like this person's looking South Austin. I'm going to send it to you. I'm not in a loop on this. I give her full permission. Just send the lead directly to wherever the location is. Hey, James has got to leave without doing any work. Now he's just going to go set the appointment's already set. He's going to go show property, see how many houses, 3 to 5 homes he's going to show, and he's going to convert that. He did nothing to do up front to get the business. Mm-hmm. We had an ISA taking care of everything for him, so he is just focused on the sales portion of the actual transaction.
So more like efficiency. I mean,
very efficient.
Not to be totally like obvious, but having a team to create efficiency because you can't be everywhere all at once.
Let's add on the efficiency portion. My wife is an absolute rock star. She is handling all the TC work, which means transaction coordination. So all the guys are doing, and girls, they're going out showing homes. They're going on listing appointments. They're focused on actual sales. As soon as they have a contract ready to go and rocking and rolling, send it off to Kaylee. Kaylee handles the getting into the back end, making sure they're getting paid correctly, making sure they're in compliance, making sure all that stuff. They're focused 100% on sales, and that a typical solo agent's got to handle that by themselves, where they may get held up, or it's 2-3 hours of a day. We're like, all right, what about my documents, and make sure everything's organized. And if they don't have that and organization in place, it's gonna be a mess.
This is a little bit of a sidebar, but I think I can rope it back into the benefits of being on a team. How often do you feel like you run into agents that once you kind of present this type of efficiency with ISA, inside sales associates, transaction coordinators, all of these things, and the idea is to create an efficiency so that the real estate agent is actually out there selling, generating new business, and prospecting, if you will. How often do you find that you'll encounter agents that, once given the opportunity to go through that sort of, what do you call it, like assembly line, they really hold on to things like they want to handle the job of the transaction coordinator. They want to
at the start they do. Then they realize that I don't have the time to.
Well, and here's and I knew that was the answer, but I just wanted to hear you say it. But here's the part that I think's worth chatting about. Do you think it's because these agents don't want to give up control, or do you think it's possible that they want to hang on to these activities because the actual prospecting part is something that they don't really want to do?
Very valid point.
I mean,
it's both. And once they learn that the prospecting and the sales side is actually how they create their wealth, and it's not from the back end busy work that they're doing, I think there's at some point it kind of like a little bomb goes off in their head, and they're like, oh, okay, so I did 7 transactions this month, and I spent 30 minutes on the computer. Okay, I used last month before I joined the team, I did 1 transaction, and I was in front of my computer for about 25 hours for that whole month, and I only had about 3 appointments last month. And then when they realized they went on 30 appointments, they're like, "Oh wow, this is a lot different." And this is something. Maybe this is why I joined a team. And I know I was skeptical at front and didn't know what to expect, but there's really a lot that plays into being on a team because of the amount of leads, the amount of transactionals, the amount of opportunity, the amount of just everything that's out there for a team. You just there's just so much that goes on.
The reason I bring it up is because, you know, your business obviously relates very much to mine, and I have loan officers and processors, and you know, even when we're really busy, we have like what we call like, you know, loan officer assistants, and I run into this all the time. And the reason that I bring it up is because I think a lot of what we do as salespeople really comes down to self-awareness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so you know who you are out there on my team. Like, I have loan officers that would just, you know, want to be involved in the entire transaction, and they claim that it's because, you know, they want things to run smooth. Sometimes they'll even make comments like, well, so and so didn't get to it as quickly as I wanted them to. And I think that as salespeople, we sometimes like, that's what the story that we tell ourselves, right?
Yeah.
When in reality, we are trying to figure out ways to, you know, hang on to and make ourselves feel busy with the transaction that we currently have, when in reality, like, we need to be out there. You know, I relate it to like hunting or fishing, right? Like, you know, I can go out and hunt a deer, shoot it, field dress it,
Mm-hmm.
bring it in, bleed it out in my garage, quarter everything, butcher it, get a meat processor, make sausage, like, and I have one deer that's going to last me probably, you know, 90 days, for example. And it took me all in like 6, 8 hours worth of work.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not selling deer here, but just as the analogy, like, I could sell way more deer meat if I just bag these deer, have someone field dress it, bring it in, take it to a butcher who already has all the equipment and experience, and like turns out like a fantastic product, shrink wraps it, does all the things for me, seasons it, makes me jerky and all of that. And I feel like the you know, the excuse that these salespeople make, and I really, my public service announcement is, as a salesperson, I really encourage you to just be self-aware and ask yourself, are you really taking on every facet of the process because is it because you like it, or is it because you think someone's going to do it wrong, or is it possibly, and this is what I think the main excuse is it possibly because you're just not really into prospecting?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have another kickback. Splits.
Mm-hmm.
So as a solo agent, typically you are going to have a higher split. But let's compare. The conversation I have is how many transactions you do as a solo agent,
Mm-hmm.
how many transactions did you do as a team, and let's just say your split on a solo agent was 90-10. And let's say your split on a team was 70-30. And on the 70-30 split that you did 25 transactions compared to the that you on as a solo agent that you did 8. Did you make more money making on 8 transactions at a 9-10 split or 25 at 70-30?
Of course. And I think the only argument to that, and this is, again, it's a poor argument, but I'll give playing devil's advocate, I find once again is that the idea is for you to do more transactions because we're freeing up time for salespeople to go out and do what they do best. And if you're not utilizing, because I've seen this happen before. I mean, you and I know agents like this that go on to teams and they still do the same number of transactions, and they find free time and they don't go out and prospect. They go play golf or something.
Accountability.
Right? So it's like, well, I'm making less money on a team. It's like, well, the idea is we're freeing up time for you to do more money-making activities, not so you can, like, I don't know, golf or pick your kids up from school or whatever
Which is important.
yeah,
Picking
yeah,
that is
picking your kids
important.
up from school is important. But you could pay someone to do that too.
Yeah, you could.
Maybe that's what Lone Wolf needs to offer, you know? Like, I know there's not a bunch of people with kids, but
We have a chauffeur service to pick your kids up.
there it is.
Yeah.
I had an employee that I literally looked into the possibility of, and the issue that we ran into is actually like legality issues.
I almost did it for a client once.
one of my she's still with me. Her son has to be picked up, and I was like, can't we work out like an Uber service or something along those lines? I'm like, there has to be car services for picking up kids, and it turns out there's way more red tape than you would think.
It's called school buses.
Well, that's what you know. What you're gonna trigger me?
Okay.
You're gonna trigger me because I've had this conversation before, and you know what? This one will do great too. I know I'm gonna sound old when I say this, but I don't care because I just find I am so tired of watching these videos, and I have employees with kids. Even my sister has a kid that she has to pick up, and I do not understand what happened to school buses. I do not understand what happened to walking. And I've confronted people and been like, why do you need to pick your kid up from school? Like, what is this all about? And I kind of get the same answer on a regular basis. It's like bullies. It's, people are like afraid to let their kids walk home, which I find that, and I mean, don't get me wrong, there are certain neighborhoods, but in the most part, like, especially in Austin, you've got safe places that kids can walk from school. And I think about like bullies on the bus or bullies walking home from school as a kid. And like, that's the shit that makes you. Like, those are like events that I feel like people need to go through. And I just do not understand. And I don't know when it happened. Like, I kind of have an idea because I started seeing it maybe about like
07, 08.
Is that when? I feel like it was after.
That's when my mom started like, I will come pick you up.
I don't understand it because not only does it like make for like soft kids, number one, number two, it fucks a ton of stuff up in regards to like traffic, people's work days, all this stuff. And like, there's so many bad things that are associated in my mind with you picking your kid up from school. And then I've got to watch women on a TikTok bitch about the pickup lines. And it's like, why the fuck are we picking kids up? Why are we doing this? Like, they invented this busing system with routes and drivers and all of this, and we just want to be like, no, we can't do that.
Okay, let's go on this topic. Kindergarten, first grade.
Okay.
We still picking our kid up? You on the school bus?
I mean, kindergarten, we didn't have school buses. But in first grade, we definitely did.
And that was like the time you hung with your friends on the bus, and you kind of did some, like, you're like, it was when you're just being a kid.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. And then like you go home, like you would walk home with your friends, and then you get like distracted on something. And you go like, let's say for example, there's a basketball hoop on the way.
Yeah.
Right? You guys go hoop for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then your mom's like, where the hell are you? And guess what? First graders sometimes have phones now.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's like if your kid's walking home, you got to find my iPhone.
Yeah.
You know if they're not in the right area.
Mm-hmm.
So like, maybe they have a watch, and that's fine. From my iPhone and watch. I'm with you on the standpoint. I don't understand. There's maybe I can't react fast enough if my kid's not walking the exact route and there's something else. Maybe there's a.
Yeah, you can't live like that though, man.
I understand,
that's
but like,
my whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, with these paranoid parents that are like, it's a crazy world today, and I'm thinking like, I don't know, it's way safer than it is 100 years ago.
Yeah.
200 years ago, people were getting picked off by Comanche Indians, like Mary Parker. Yeah, I'm telling you, man. I read that book. They're just stealing people, like for real, like hordes of people.
Yeah.
And so now,
and then we build Best Buys in their land.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's for another podcast. Yeah. But yeah, the whole picking kids up from school thing. I mean, so here's where I'm going to parlay this back into being a team. There's a part of me that we talked about the sales side of things where we show the efficiency of here's what we're going to take away from your job, which is just busy work so that you can go out and prospect, right?
Okay.
And you run into the issue where people are like, no, I want to do all these things because I'm afraid someone's not going to do it right. Isn't that kind of the same fucking thing with buses, right? It's like, you don't understand, Matt. Like, I have to pick my kids up. Is it maybe because you just don't like what you do? So like midday, you kind of look forward to the idea of being like, hey, I got to go. I got to pick my kid up. And it's like, is that because you've got to pick your kid up, or is that because your job, you just don't like it?
I think you're going to get a few answers on that one.
Yeah.
You're going to get 75% make the excuse, 25% there's a little helicopter mom going on.
Well, I mean, that's just as bad. That goes back to having a transaction coordinator and not using it.
Yeah.
Like, this analogy is fitting very well.
Yeah.
It's like We have these systems in place for you to operate on the most efficient way as possible. And for the kid thing, I can't speak for all kids, but I was one once. And to your point, like there'd be times I'd come home like a half an hour later than normal because we got in like a snowball fight and it was a blast.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Basketball hoop, like you said. I mean, all that kind of stuff. Yes, there's going to be some occasional bullying and like, yes, maybe a fist fight, but like no one's killing each other at like, 6, 7 years old. Like
It went out on the movie Straight Outta Compton.
right, exactly. And it's like, and of course somebody on this is going to be like, well, there's a mass shooting and a 7-year-old brought a gun to the school. And it's like shit happens.
Let's get him on the bus, get him out of school.
Yeah, maybe if, yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point. So anyway, going back to team and, going back to how we don't, the whole bus thing, I think it's a great analogy. But we've talked about taking duties away that are just, non-money making activities. That's a benefit. Just to double back, we also covered the idea of, yes, we have better map coverage. I think one of them too that, with the map coverage, like now you have an opportunity that like maybe you do have flexibility where if you can't show a home because you have another client, you have a team member now that is going to be like, yeah, I can show that home.
Do it all the time with Russ.
Yeah. Yeah. So what other reasons do you feel like it is beneficial or efficient? I like using the word efficient.
Open houses.
Open houses. All right.
Okay, so let's just say,
that.
for example, like this past week, I had 3 listings that went live.
Mm-hmm.
First grab is going to be the agents on the team who wanted to work the open houses.
Right.
Each one of the agents took the open house for each of the listings. They're going to have first traffic to it, and that is way for more prospecting.
Mm-hmm.
Goes back to if you don't work an open house, you're not prospecting.
Yep. True. And then, I
for buyer leads typically.
Right.
But it could be buy sells.
Well, and have you ever had situations where someone has landed like a listing and maybe they're unconfident and, they bring on like another teammate or something?
Megan and I are doing that right now.
There it is.
So I'll give you an example. Megan had a lease listing that it was close friends of hers, but they previously listed with Redfin to sell the property.
Mm-hmm.
And Redfin, that's going to be like a 1 to 1.5% commission plus the 3% to the buyer, or 2.5%. We were able to do a full 6%. We got on a Zoom call. I've never been to the property.
Right.
We got on a Zoom call. I led her through the call, gave her the exact example of how the call goes. And within 10 minutes after the call, they signed the listing agreement. We went live with that property yesterday.
Love it.
So now did like the hand holding on the actual conversion side.
Mm-hmm.
And then now, hey, you're free to go run this entire scenario now.
So I'm going to go back to playing devil's advocate here and being the real estate agent that thinks that I'm going to be better off without being on a team.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I have seen. So with all of the good that comes with a team, I've seen some bad actors, as I would put it. So I've seen situations where, not to name any names, but somebody who basically used to work on your team goes and starts their own team. And when they do that, they think, this is how I'm going to make money. But it's like, well, what are you bringing to the table as a team for the people who are on it? In other words, I've seen situations where...
And how's that going today?
Right. I've seen situations where it's like, hey, we're starting our own team. And it's like, okay, do you have a transaction coordinator? No. It's like, okay, do you have like an inside sales associate? No. Are you buying leads? No. It's like, okay, so what do we get for being on the team? It's like, well, we can get a slightly higher split, but again, 0% of 0 is, or 100% of 0 is still 0. It's like we might get a higher split. We're going to take team photos and look cute, and you're going to get all of my experience and knowledge as the team lead. And there's a lot of teams out there like that. And so I feel like right there, for the person who's not the team lead, there's very little value outside of like, okay, you get a little brand with some cute photos. Maybe there's someone on the team that is knowledgeable. But in this industry, I mean, if you contact almost any real estate agent with knowledge, you could contact someone from another brokerage. They're going to help you within reason, of course. So I see a lot of those teams, and in those situations, I feel like it gives real estate teams a bad name because then it's like, oh, I'm not starting a team. That's stupid. Like, what's the point? And I would like your opinion on this. And I mean, I'm sure there's no actual statistic, but I would envision that there are more teams like I just described than actual teams that are providing things of monetary value.
I actually just did the research.
Oh, well, tell me about it.
Okay. So I did it by transactions.
Okay.
There are, let's how do I go about this? There are 80% of teams doing less than 25 transactions per year.
Okay. And so, in addition to that, though, my question is more along the lines of, are these teams, as a team, I'll relate it to like a mortgage company, right? So, we have loan officers here. If we're not providing, tech stack stuff to make their job easier, assistance, like an assistant to help them, kind of like a transaction coordinator, all of that. If we're not doing all of these things that cost money, providing them computers, all of these things that cost them money, if we take all of that away and it's like, you've got to get your own assistant, you've got to get your own computer, you've got to do all of these things, we're just on a team. It's like, what are we doing here?
Why are you on a team?
What's the point?
Yeah.
Right? And then usually the answer is, well, you've only been in the business for a few years and I've been doing it for 20. So you get all of my wealth of knowledge. And it's like, cool, right? Like, I can call anyone in this business and they'll help me out. And believe it or not, over 2/3 of everything you need to know in certain situations, you can probably just Google on the internet or go to one of your real estate forums.
Yep.
So that's the statistic I want to know, is how many teams are teams that literally offer nothing other than you're on my team. I know we don't know, but I would bet if it's 80% is doing that number, I bet it's almost 60 to 70% of teams are, just it's like me saying like, I'm a rock star. Like,
I feel bad for those agents that are on those teams.
Yeah.
So that's a recruitment call here. If you're on a team and you're not happy, call me.
If you're on a team and there is no sort of transaction coordinator, inside salesperson setting up appointments for you, leads being purchased, and all you're getting is like cute photos and maybe a slightly higher split, there's no reason for you to be on that
I'll
team.
add on that. Dedicated one-on-one time to make sure what your pipeline looks like and accountability.
Well, I feel like that's what the team,
I understand. I'm playing the advocate there.
Okay.
One-on-one time, usually about once per week. We can do more. Video content, setting you up for success. A YouTube channel just like this one, adding on to the YouTube content. Putting you in front of opportunities you wouldn't normally have because of things that arise throughout team transactions, where not one agent can handle all of them at the exact same time. So I'll give you an exact scenario. We were about, 4 months into starting the team, a few years back, and I had 7 transactions, technically 14 sides of a party, in one transaction.
Wow.
So I had to close 6 homes to help them buy the next. Sell 6, buy 1, but I'm dealing with 13 other agents.
Gotcha.
7, but whatever.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
So let's touch on the last part of, the benefits of a team. And, I'll start it off going back to James McDonald, where, again, the whole Proctor thing, the one thing that he really, really hammered home in the initial training was building a business with the intention of only selling homes to people that is going after a finite amount of business.
Very tiny.
We're going after people that you don't know, that is an almost infinite amount of business. And so I run into situations all the time with agents, because we talk about, as a lender, trying to combine forces with leads. And I have agents that look at me like I am a monster when I'm like, yeah, have you ever considered purchasing leads? And they're like, what are you talking about? That's crazy. That's crazy talk. And it interests me because of exactly what we just said, where it's like there is a whole group of people that is way bigger than the people that you could get in front of and do more business. And so as a team, it's usually one of the things that is provided because, well, you have to provide value to recruit.
After that training, we did a research to see how many people were SOI referral compared to lead generated. 13% of our business is SOI and referral.
I would love to know the statistic of, like, if we look at all of the top agents in the market, how many of them are SOI referral versus, lead gen?
50-50.
You think it's 50-50?
think of okay. I'm going to throw a few different names out there.
Mhm.
This is Christy Leonard.
You don't think she's doing any sort of
I
like
do.
pay per click?
I do,
or
but think of how many referrals she's getting after seller after seller after seller after seller.
Sure.
Seller leads fucking suck online.
Right.
Just being blunt, they do. Like it's the way you convert a seller lead is it's going to be a buy that has to sell before they buy, or do a recast on a buy and a sell.
Okay. Here's something I'll say to that though. Terminology is important. So I think in an instance with an agent like that, that's money paid towards marketing
Okay,
versus leads.
correct.
But the thing I think that agents get a little confused on is they look at someone like Christy Lee Leonard as she isn't spending any money and business is just coming through her sphere of influence.
No.
And that is a big point and or argument that I have had with a lot of agents. And this isn't directed at her, but other agents I know that are spending a lot in what we'll call it marketing dollars, not leads, but marketing dollars, beat their chest that everything comes from their sphere of influence. But then it's like, well, what are you doing for client appreciation? What are you doing for closing gifts? What are you doing for, even if you're doing like first-time homebuyer seminars, or even if you're giving out gift cards once a year just to say like, hey, I'm here. What are you doing for refrigerator magnets? I see.
Mm-hmm.
Like the list goes on, and things that you could consider marketing. And I just want to eliminate any kind of confusion for anybody who thinks like, I want to be like insert top end agent that doesn't buy leads. I promise you, he or she is still investing in their business through marketing dollars. And it is a dollar figure that is not like,
And
a
they know
couple
and
dollars.
they know their cost per lead is.
Correct. So, again, going back to leads, the benefit of being on a team, doing all of those things, getting in front of people that you don't know. That doesn't mean that you don't do business with people you do. It's just an opportunity to capitalize on additional business, which here's the other thing I feel like people forget about. When we talk about leads, I can't tell you how many clients I have gotten or had repeat business with from a lead that I bought 7 years ago. I actually can think of one right now that we're talking about doing a refinance, and I've already done 2 purchases with them, one refinance, and now they're talking about refinancing their other property, and that was off of a lead that we had received where at the time, if I looked at the cost per lead on something like that, it was like we probably made only a couple $1,000s on.
Yep.
And now we've gotten 3 additional transactions off of the one. So like that's the other piece to think about. So those of you that are like, man, I kind of want to do some lead stuff and thinking about doing lead generation, but I don't know how to do it, or I don't know if I'm willing to pay for it, being on a team that's going to provide things like that, there's a ton of value there.
Completely. 100%.
Had you got any success stories of anybody who came on and was like, I don't want to take leads, I don't want to deal with this, I just want to like hang out at the bar and somehow figure out ways to sell houses to my friends, and then they got in and they were like, okay, I get it?
Honestly, not really. Because that's not who we recruit.
Got it.
It's eliminated very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And the mindset, if you're going to have that mindset before you even join the team, it's not
So there hasn't been anybody who gives you pushback on taking,
Sure.
Inbound calls from people they don't know?
No, because that's what they want.
Okay.
That's who's on the team.
Got it. What about prospecting as far as reaching out to people?
Hardest thing I have to deal with.
Yeah. That's
Hardest
a tough
thing.
one. What do you think the issue is with that?
Scared to call.
You think so?
100%.
This is one of my favorite conversations because, I wasn't always the way that I am right now. And I remember one of the stories that I tell, because it's quick, but it reminds me of what we're talking about right now, was I used to hate role playing. I hated it.
In real estate.
Yeah. So I had a sales manager. His name was Mark Fantozzi. Shout out to Fantozzi. There's people who watch this podcast that know exactly who I'm talking about. And he used to try to get us to role play every week, and he'd bring us in the office and we'd do these role play scenarios, and I fucking hated it. And I used to convince myself that the reason why I hated it was because I thought it was stupid, because I didn't need to role play, because I was like Allen Iverson, right? Practice? Like, you talk about practice? Like, I could be on the phone right now actually doing this, but you want me in your office to practice? And it was one of those things that going back, man, this podcast this particular one right now is all about self-awareness. I was just lying to myself. I was lying to myself that I hated prospecting because of the reasons that I mentioned, that I could be on the phone, that I didn't need to practice. The truth is, the reason I hated it was because it made me feel insecure. You know, I didn't like when I messed up in my pitch in front of my peers. And I was just one of those guys that was like, I was too cool to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I was too good for that shit.
Yep.
And
that's typically, like, I'll use an example. It's typically the people, like, let's just say you're at Craig Proctor Giant Seminar in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
The guy that usually goes to those that doesn't go to anything is too cool.
Right. Yeah. And so, long story short, like we've talked about the benefits of the team, going back to the lead stuff. I mean, I think it's huge. And then even the outbound calling, man, don't get me wrong. And I actually talked about this 2 days ago when Ina Kyle was on the podcast. She did a seminar, and we couldn't remember who the guy was, but, you know, he got up there and basically said that he likes what he does, but he recognizes that it's work. And he says, about 80% of what I do during the day, I don't like, right? Like, I don't hate it, but I don't, like, it's not something I get up and I'm like, oh yeah, I can't wait to fucking cold call.
Can't wait to get yelled "fuck you" over the phone.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And he's like, 20% of my job I love. I love going to closings. I love collecting commission checks for helping people. I love watching, people get their keys and all these other things. There's even stuff that he said. I like marketing. I'm not afraid to be in front of the camera. But that's why it's a job.
Mm-hmm.
Because I said this on the other podcast, and I'm sure it'll make the clip. It's like, I don't know who said it originally, but there's only two ways to make money. You either do something that no one else knows how to do, or you do something that no one else wants to do. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So so when people are, thinking like, how can I be more successful, and thinking about James McDonald, who has made predictions, and that's actually how I got the clip about the team thing. Now that I think about it, I said, James, the last time I connected with you, I sent you a text message at like 2:00 in the morning because I was on a couple Lone Stars, and I was having a conversation with some other real estate agents, and I was like, oh man, I got to text James right now, because in 2021 I was at the Super Conference in Orlando, and we had probably six. This is the Dallas Sealy was there, and we had probably 600 or 700 agents there. And the constant comment and conversation, and even people raising their hand, was all about, I want to know more information about how to get listings. I don't even want to deal with buyers, because at the time, if you had a listing, like, you didn't have to do much. You literally listed it, and there was 40 offers in the first 48 hours. And I remember James saying in front of all of these agents, guys, I want to be very, very clear. If you learn nothing at this, conference, please hear me out. I've been doing real estate for over 30 years, and I promise you it will turn. And if you don't know how to work buyers, go after buyers, convert buyers, and all you're concerned about are listings, you're going to fail. He's like, picture this. You've got 30 listings, and every single week you're contacting them to go over a conversation in regards to a price improvement. Yeah. Can you, how about we train on that call? How's that call go?
Sucks.
Right. And so, again, going back to just the wholesale side, just to doing things we don't like doing, like, that's why it's work. And as long as you don't hate it, it's, ask yourself, am I avoiding this because of the stupid shit I tell myself because I'm too cool for it? Or is it because maybe I'm not that good at it and I don't like it?
Majority of the time, it is the second one.
Right. I mean, it's one thing if you don't like it, but if you're not good at it, then you need to do it. I don't like doing abs. Fucking sucks. But I do an ab routine.
Clearly, I don't either.
Well, I have abs. They're just under this layer of Lone Star.
Mine are deep hibernation.
So I want to just go back to the team. We've covered quite a bit. When we talk about the leads thing, the last thing I really want you to cover, because I know, Lone Wolf is it's growing, man. What's the tech stack? We want to get into.
Let's start Genie. I haven't even talked to you about that yet.
No.
Okay, so it's a company out of San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
It is AI. It is listings. It is leads. It's everything.
Okay.
But the whole purpose of it is when you get listings, you
Mhm.
create buyer leads.
Yep.
Okay, but there's AI built behind it. So like you can go in there, like it's your chat GBT for real estate, and you say, build me a real estate stack or build me a listing stack with a marketing flyer, a brochure, a website, and a description for 123 Main Street.
Yep.
It already has seen that you have the documentation listed on your back end for your whatever brokerage you're with. And it might not be on the MLS yet, but it can see old data as well.
Mm.
It writes a perfect description. And it gives you these perfect images. Even if your images are just on the back end inside your system, it still can pull them. And it creates this, it's crazy. I wish I could do a screen share to show you.
Well, what you should do is just tell anybody who wants to see it that they just need to reach out to you.
Perfect. Reach out to me. Spyglass has done a great job working with their CEO, Steve Hunley. And Steve is now working directly with us as the only brokerage in Austin or even in Texas that has access to this, and going to be using us as his kind of his sandbox. He already has his sandbox basically created, but when he wants to implement it and basically use the content that he has now, branded to us and branded to our team, you're going to be the only agent that has access to this. And the really cool part is when you're going through your farm. So let's just say you're looking at your farm and you want to look at, let's say it's River Place and Jester off 2222. Well, it's going to tell you before you even start your farm there how much every agent who is farming there currently has of market share based off of the amount of mailers, based off the postage, based off the.
We'll tell you who it is too.
Oh, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. And it tells you who you're competing with. So it gives you a score 5 out of 0.
Okay.
If it's a 5, it's entry. If it's a 4, you got to reconsider things. But if it's a 4 and has absentee owners, you're in a better spot because they don't see the signs in the yard. You can hit them with mailers to their actual mailing address.
Right.
So that's the difference there when you look at that, and we have access to that. So, like, for example, and you can get these records. Let's just say I'm pulling 1,500 records. It's going to cost you about $600-700 to get all the data. And then I'm spending $200 to $500 a month on actual farming there. And I'm going to get 3 to 5 listings on there per month.
And these are all things that are kind of perks of being on the Lone Wolf Realty team.
You're the only one's going to have access to it.
And so I know one of the other things that we've talked about, and we're going to be doing a little presentation at the next Craig Proctor coaching event, which I totally forget the date, but it's in April.
April, mid to late April.
Yeah, it's mid to late April. I'll get the information. Y'all should be there. But you're going to be doing a brief presentation on an app. It's an app, right? It's an app called Home.
HOM. Basically, it's a lifetime engagement app that we've invested for the team. I'm actually working with them as well to sell it to other teams and brokerages in the Austin area. Basically, what it does, my favorite cool, I could go through 5-10 minutes talking about this, but the coolest feature has this thing called TCO.
Okay.
TCO stands for true cost of ownership. So when you're searching like you would on Zillow or anything else, but you're on the Home app, you see list prices, but then you can toggle to what's called TCO. Basically, they work with you to get a pre-approval letter. Let's just say they're going 10% conventional. Well, they're going to build that into their profile on the app and say we're 10% conventional and we want a max budget of, let's say, $5,000.
Okay.
Well, they can now search from $0 to $5,000 in all of Austin, and it takes into account for property tax. It takes into account for the HOA. It takes into account for utilities in the area. It takes into account for how big the square footage is for electricity bills. It understands the internet, if it's fiber, if it's whatever it might be, and it builds out what your actual true cost of ownership would be at that home every single month. So instead of shopping on list prices, because you already have your loan built out on how much money you're putting down, you just shop on how much you wanted to spend per month and what your max budget is. So then you can see that. And it's the coolest feature because our industry now for buyers has shifted to a statement, well, what's it going to cost me per month?
Yeah.
I have equity. The market's done crazy things in my previous home. Or I'm a first-time buyer, and I'm doing a 3.5% FHA or 3% conventional. I have the money to do the initial. What can I do to cover my closing costs, and what's it costing me per month to live there? And the way that it can actually provide the data so it gives a confirmation to the consumer, oh, really, it's only going to cost that much, even with utilities, even with my loan, even with, oh, what happens if we do a rate buy down? Can we see what that looks like? Sure, we can build that in the app.
And then it builds confidence and you have a much better buyer.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the one thing we talk about. You know, this is one of my value adds that I tell real estate agents. We'll mention James Johnson again. I was having a meeting with him and we were talking about a buyer who he just couldn't really, get super interested in buying. And then he was able to get him over to me. And I tell, the biggest mistake I think that real estate agents make when it comes to buyers that are on the fence is that they don't get them over to a lender, not because of obvious reasons regarding like they need pre-approval. You want to make sure you're not wasting your time. But one of the things that you really need to start shopping lenders for, because I think real estate agents are like, oh, well, if they do a good job, they close, they have a good experience, everything's great. If you don't have a a lender that is able to get on the phone with your buyer and not only do the approval, but get them excited about buying, this home app, is an example of that. Like, confident buyers are the best buyers. And as much as we want to, talk about homes and property values and everything, people want to know what they're going to pay monthly, and they want to feel confident in what the cost is going to be. And that is my job as a lender, is to not only do what I think 99% of the population thinks about my job is just to like look at a spreadsheet with numbers and be like, yeah, you can afford this. As a salesperson, if you're referring leads to your lender right now and that buyer isn't coming back more confident and excited about purchasing, you need to switch lenders and call me.
Yeah, reconsider.
Because James was going on at our meeting and is like, dude, we got him on the phone with Matt. He was kind of hesitant. He literally called James back and goes, yeah, I just got off the phone with Matt. And and he goes, we're buying a house. And he got under contract in a week.
Yeah.
Like, that is what you're looking for but the point the reason I'm bringing it up, not only to selfishly promote myself, but having an app that allows you to put all that data in there and create a more confident buyer, that is just a perk of being on the Lone Wolf Realty team. And the part you didn't talk about, this whole thing operates through the MLS, correct? So you're keeping your client off of other apps like Realtor.com, Zillow, all the ones that are basically actively trying to pull your buyer away from you. They have a real-time, correct me if I'm wrong, but even more accurate picture of what their local real estate market looks like.
And they have, and on the front page, every day they log in, they're going to see current rates. They're going to see whether it's a seller market trends right now or seller buyer trends right now. They're going to see market statistics. So they're going to see how many properties are active, how many are pending, how many are closed. So instead of you having to do the Instagram data dump, here's a market update of what's going on, make sure I want to stay in front of you. They have it every single day. They can literally just open the app without even ask you, and it's right there. And the even cooler part is, so there's a consumer app and an agent app. The agent has to pay for the actual software itself to be able to provide it to the consumer. The consumer can go on there right now and ask for any agent they want in all of Austin.
I have it on my phone.
But if you, and then because I'm your agent.
Right.
Exactly.
Because I'm the consumer. Yeah. It's like, oh, it's cool.
But then from the standpoint of, let's say you're the agent and they're already connected with you, there's a portion in there that's called Quick Connect. And let's just say, for example, you're out with a buddy at a bar and you're like, hey, Kemps is my favorite. He's the best agent I've ever worked with. Here, take a peek. Just scan the QR code, or I can copy the link over to you. As soon as that guy, Bob Smith, scans that QR code, I got Bob Smith's info to me.
Yeah, you got all of it. Yeah. No, it's huge. It's huge.
And all I'm doing is reaching out to Bob immediately and say, hey, and I'm texting him within the app. Or I can call from the app. And I just say, hey, Bob, just want to talk with you real quick. I saw that you referred to me by Matt Kersling. Understand, not sure where you're at with the whole home buying or selling process, but wouldn't be a good time for us to have a first initial call. Go from there, and now the whole pipeline.
Well, and you might be thinking, oh, I'm going to go ahead and download this. But if you're a single agent, you're taking on that full expense versus going to a
$350
team.
a month.
Yeah, versus going to a team where it's like, hey, you're getting this for free because you're subsidizing it through, the entire team and their production. So another great value add. I'll tell you, home, man, we're going to put some clips out. You guys should take us out to fucking dinner.
Vo, you hear that, bud?
We're over here just singing praises, man. Going to get you in front of thousands and thousands of real estate agents here.
It truly is. Not like, sure, I'm using it and I absolutely love the app. And yes, I am selling the app as well.
Yep.
But there's a reason I'm selling, because how much I believe in the app.
Yeah.
And how much it actually will be changing the entire real estate industry, because it is a lifetime engagement app. And when I say lifetime engagement, nothing I've touched on has been the engagement portion, but there's actual weather notifications. And there's a homeowner toolkit. There's a buyer and sell guide in there. There's on the homeowner toolkit, what do I do when it's going to freeze? What do I do to replace my air filters? How often do I need to check my water heater? All these different things. It lists everything out for you, and it's off a timeline basis of how long, when your ownership is, and it reminds you to go check on these certain things based off the timeline.
Right.
my favorite feature that they're releasing here shortly that's already created on the beta version, but you're going to get access. Let's just say it's about to freeze in Austin, which is usually a nightmare. It's going to freeze in 24 hours. You're going to get a notification letting you know it's about to freeze. Hey, if it's too hot outside, bring your dogs inside. It's way too hot. It's an obvious thing, but like,
yeah, but you're making a touch point.
But and the cooler part, they're not spamming you with all these emails. It's all just it's notifications.
Right.
And you can just, as soon as you're done, clear. All right, I'm going to take care of the freeze and go cover my stuff up. By the way, if you ever need stuff to cover your freeze, we have branded ones that are not just the crappy foam ones. They're actually like a really good material you put on, drawstrings, and it fits to your stone that's not straight lined. Let me know and reach out to me. I'll give you a free pair of them.
It's so funny that that's a thing after the last few years.
Yeah.
It's like,
and you grew up in Cleveland, you're like,
yeah, that's
you're
why
you're
I'm
like,
laughing.
Seriously?
Well, I mean, in Texas' defense, when it comes to that kind of stuff, the one thing that people always ask me, they're like, well, what do they do in Cleveland? Because we don't really use those covers because, first of all, everyone has a basement or a crawl space, and you have water valves installed to where, like, you can go in your basement, and in the wintertime, you turn off the water from the inside. So, like, we don't even use those, like...
Our infrastructure is not even built for anything
right,
like that. Yeah.
Right. Like, it's kind of not your fault because, yeah, I mean, we have shut-off valves and everything to where, like, there is no water running outside during the winter because that's, well, bad shit happens. So is there anything else you want to cover in regards to leads, lead conversion, teams?
In the future, I'm not sure I can say this, but whatever, I'll say it. Home is going to be releasing a leads platform as well.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be very similar to a Zillow Flex.
Nice.
It is in the future of the app, and early adopters are going to have first availability to those. So if you want to set up a demo with me, feel free to reach out to me. Again, numbers here, emails down there, and I'll just kind of do my. Oh, actually, you know what? Before we jump off, Super Bowl prediction.
Yeah, I mean, now we're at a point where we actually have the teams. I mean,
because neither one of our teams that we picked is playing.
I feel like my entire like football, whatever you want to call it, this season, like I can't call it a career. It's not a career. My experience, this entire season, I feel like every game I watch is the same. Where like when it's not my team, that is, where the team that I want to win, I feel like is not going to win. And and it's like, but then when I want to like make a prediction as far as a bet, I'm like going against what I want, and it sucks.
Like I want the 49ers to destroy the Chiefs. Chiefs do not need to win anymore. Chiefs are gonna fucking win.
I think so too. I mean, the one thing that we obviously saw all throughout the playoffs, I do not know how the 49ers are even in the Super Bowl. They, you know, they got every single game
horrible.
Every single game was a close game. I mean, you know, they almost choked every single game, starting with Green Bay all the way through. And I just don't see how. Where are they playing?
I think it's Vegas.
It's in Vegas.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Let me confirm.
I'm just trying to think if there's any kind of whatever. You know, here's a fun stat that I heard the other day. Do you know what the cheapest seat cost is to go to that game?
I can only imagine.
Well, go ahead and guess.
$3,500.
More.
$5,000.
More.
$10,000.
Less.
$7,500.
$8,000 for the cheapest seat, and then the average seat for the Super Bowl is $10,000.
Yeah, Allegiant Stadium, Las Vegas, February 11th.
And so I was talking about this with Ina, and she's like, "How is that even possible? If there's people that are going to the game for $8,000, like there's there's people with way too much money." But then I thought about it, and I was like, "How many teams are in the NFL?"
I think 36.
In the 30s, 35, 36. Yeah. So you know all those guys are going to go, right? And, I mean, how many players
32.
are... Okay, so you got 32 teams in the NFL, all with an average player count of at least, what?
60 to 80?
Right. So you've got right there's like 2,500 people. And I'm sure not every one of them is going to go. But then there's those people. Then there's those people who are also connected to someone in the league. There's coaches. There's...
They have
like,
celebrities.
But I guess the point I'm trying to make is like...
They have media.
Right. Like, once you start breaking down all the people who you're like, well, yeah, they'll be there. Well, yeah, they'll be there. And then you get to, like, the general population, like scrubs like me.
10%.
It's like, Yeah, of course it's $8,000. Because
Yeah.
like for a loser like me with any kind of connection to the NFL outside of me watching it at the fucking TV, like why would I be there if all of these people who have some sort of, how do I put it, like connection to either someone in the NFL or directly working for the NFL, like even a guy who works at the stadium has a better opportunity of getting a ticket than I do, I feel like. So I started to think about it like that because it's only one game.
Yep.
It's just one game, and you got so many people who are involved in the NFL in general.
And then let's dive on back to the who's gonna win.
Yeah,
Taylor Swift is gonna drive this entire fucking game.
I read this
Vegas
post.
is gonna just drive it, so it's Taylor Swift wins. And
I read this post the other day from this friend of mine that's a female up in Cleveland, and it was like, I love her to death, but she's one of these women who basically is, she's like a hardcore feminist. And she basically was like, I'm so tired of hearing all these people that are like, fuck Taylor Swift. We're sick of seeing her. Like, why do we pan Taylor Swift every single time? And she kind of had this like go girl thing, like, see, men just rule the world and they want to tear down a woman who's being successful and so on and so forth. And it was really interesting to me because it was like, what a way to like spin that in my mind. Cause it's like, I'm sick of seeing Taylor Swift. Not because, like, I care about some successful woman
it's
or
not
anything.
what I'm trying to watch.
Exactly. It's like I'm watching a football game, and it in my opinion, it cheapens the competition that is going on. If I wanted to see Taylor Swift, I would. And then when I reverse it and I think about, like, if we were at a Taylor Swift concert and all of a sudden, like, I don't know.
It's all Travis.
Well, not just that, but I'm just thinking like halfway through the Taylor Swift concert, like all of a sudden the screen pops up and it's like, ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-bum. Make sure you tune in to the NFL on Sunday at Fox. Blah, blah, blah. Like women would lose their minds. Yeah. They'd lose their minds. So it's such like a double standard. And so I just want to make it clear, this whole Taylor Swift thing.
In this defense of that, she's not performing.
That's true. Well, right. I mean, look, Taylor Swift rocks, like I get it. She's been around forever. She's got a following of people who have been following her since, I remember when Taylor Swift came out, I was like maybe 12 or 13, even me. So that's why you see these like 40-year-old women that are into Taylor Swift. They grew up with her, and then she's just captured like almost 3 generations worth of women and all of that. So I totally get it.
Kaylee was 15 when 15 came out, or whatever number it was.
Right.
Yeah.
So I get it, and kudos to her, and she is a musician. I've actually seen her play, and she's got a good voice, and clearly she's got some fantastic marketing people. Like, I can't say anything bad about Taylor Swift. I don't know her, but I'll bet with that young of fame and all that success, I'll bet she's pretty fucking weird.
But she's a badass too.
You think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone who's not putting their music on Spotify and iTunes because she's not getting paid for it because it's subscription now.
Oh yeah, I'm giving her the marketing kudos for sure. There's definitely that. There's no doubt. I'll give her the badass in regards to that. But I guess I just wonder what it's like dating Taylor Swift. It's got to be fucking weird, man.
Dude, imagine she fucks it up. Oh, he's gonna get destroyed.
I heard a fun fact, and I don't know if this is true. So for those of you watching this, put this in the comments. But I was told that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce met in Cleveland, Ohio.
Sick.
At Saucy Brew Works, which was right across the street from my old office. And Travis Kelce was doing a celebrity bartending gig because he's originally from Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And Taylor Swift had just finished her show and went in to like do a signing or something along those lines. And he was the celebrity bartender. And that's when somebody said, have your people call my people.
Wow.
Love in Cleveland, man.
Wow.
It's where all the magic happens.
All right,
and then you got to leave.
Yep, let's wrap it up.
All right, man. Well,
again, I'm Matthew Kemps with Lone Fronts Group at Spyglass Realty. Whether you're an agent looking to join a team or you're on a team and you want just a different outlook, if you're a consumer looking to buy, sell, or invest and just want to have an understanding of what's going on in the market, how to prepare you for it, what are the first steps, and go through the entire process, feel free to reach out. We have our phone number down below. Calendar link is down below in the description. And I'm going to hand it off to Matt.
Yeah, Matt Kirschling with Gold Star Mortgage. Listen, all the stuff that I talked about with the leads, the lead conversion, having a salesperson to have your back as a lender, like these are conversations that I really want to have with other real estate agents. I mean what I say in respect to I can turn your on the fence buyers into real buyers, but I also got to give the disclaimer. I might call you back and be like, this guy's a tire kicker.
Yeah.
I can't turn them all, but we definitely have had a lot of success with that.
Cool. Thanks, everyone.
All right, man. Take care.